It's not going to get better, is it, if the tariffs come into effect? People are going to be worse off when Trump's tariffs come into effect, won't they? That's the truth, and that's what you're dealing with.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to see tariffs.
But you acknowledge we are going to get them.
Well, look, we're working hard on an economic deal, which we've made rapid progress on, and I hope we can make really speedy resolutions on. But look, the likelihood is there will be...
Security conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on. Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension, American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had and it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do. Yes, what I haven't got yet is your answer. I do need to.
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King and honoring really your country. Your country is a fantastic country, and it'll be our honor to be there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I shall happily take that back to His Majesty.
Beautiful.
Keir Starmer did everything possible to flatter and impress Trump. He traveled to Washington, awkwardly patting Trump whenever they laughed, as though they were close friends. All of this aimed at securing tariff exemptions, and Starmer remained optimistic about his chances of success.
Mr. President, did our Prime Minister persuade you not to put tariffs on the UK? And if I may, Prime Minister, do you think that Vladimir Putin is a man who will keep his word? Thanks.
He tried. He was working hard, I'll tell you that. He earned whatever the hell they pay him over there. But he tried. I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two great friendly countries, I think we could very well end up with a real trade deal where the tariffs wouldn't be necessary. We'll see. But he earned whatever they pay him here and today. He was working hard at lunch. And I'm very receptive to it. I think in all fairness, in all seriousness, I think we have a very good chance at arriving at a very good deal. JD and Scott and Howard, all the people are working on it. And I think we have a good chance at arriving at a deal that could be terrific.
Follow up on that. If British troops are in Ukraine keeping the peace and get attacked by Russia, will you come to their aid?
If the British people are in Ukraine and they get attacked.
If British soldiers in Ukraine.
I've always found about the British, they don't need much help. They can take care of themselves very well.
That sounds like
you know what? No, it sounds like it's evasive, but it's not evasive. The British have been incredible soldiers, incredible military, and they can take care of themselves. But if they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them. But they don't need help. You look at their career. You have done very well over the years, haven't you?
We have. I'm very proud of our country. And but we've also always been there backing each other up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we've absolutely backed each other up. And that's at the core.
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well.
However, Trump has done something that humiliated Starmer, rendering his earlier pleading pointless. But what happened, and how did Trump literally laugh Starmer out the door? In this video, let's find out. Keir Starmer set out on what was promoted as a high-stakes diplomatic trip to the United States, but it turned into a fiasco. With hands awkwardly resting on Trump's back and painfully forced attempts at small talk, Starmer looked less like a British Prime Minister and more like a desperate intern trying to impress the CEO. It was pleading at its finest, and Trump clearly knew exactly what Starmer wanted. Tariff exemptions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I say thank you for your hospitality, for your leadership? We have met a number of times, we've talked a number of times, and we have had a very constructive conversation. I'm sure we will today. And of course, our countries have been bound together for a very long time now. The closest alliance, I think, of any two countries when it comes to prosperity and security. And I know that together we will strengthen that even further. And on issues like Ukraine, thank you for changing the conversation to bring about the possibility that now we can have a peace deal. And we want to work with you to make sure that peace deal is enduring.
Yes, please do. Starmer even handed over the king's letter like a courier, only to receive patronizing responses. Trump said he would honor both the king and Britain by making a visit to the country. However, Starmer had another goal. He aimed to obtain a tariff exemption for the UK. His approach included praising Trump on Ukraine, offering a second royal state visit, and even proposing the contentious return of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, all in an effort to appear geopolitically valuable. Starmer assumed he could rely on a special relationship. Instead, he was ignored by Trump's trade team. He believed he was a priority. However, Trump's administration didn't even include the UK in the initial round of diplomatic contacts. While Marco Rubio was reaching out to allies, the UK was completely absent from the list. Meanwhile, Trump and his Republicans signaled that Europe was no longer a priority. Their focus has shifted to the Indo-Pacific and countering China. That should have been Starmer's first hint that Britain's days as a favored ally were over. But rather than adapting to this reality, he kept striving for relevance. He entered a room where no one had invited him and tried to make himself the center of attention. Washington moved on. Starmer did not. At that point, Starmer realized Trump would neither come to the UK's aid nor agree to tariff exemptions. This represents the core of Starmer's failure. He assured Parliament, the media, and business leaders that Britain would avoid US tariffs. He even asserted that swift progress was underway on a UK-US economic prosperity deal. Yet within days, Starmer was compelled to reverse course.
Look, we're working hard on an economic deal which we've made rapid progress on, and I hope we can make really speedy resolutions on. But look, the likelihood is there will be tariffs. Nobody welcomes that. We're obviously working with the sectors most impacted at pace on that. Nobody wants to see a trade war, but I have to act in the national interest. And that means that all options have to remain on the table.
No trade war, that sounds to me like you're saying you don't want to immediately introduce retaliatory tariffs. You're going to take your time.
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I am talking to the sectors most impacted, and I think what they want most is a calm and collected response to this, not a knee-jerk response. We are, of course, negotiating an economic deal which will, I hope, deal and mitigate the tariffs. That's, I think, where most people would want this to land. Can't predict the future on that, but we're working hard on it.
Starmer's fear, anxiety, and bewilderment were impossible to conceal. He knew tariffs were inevitable and that he had failed. He was aware they would impact steel, aluminium, and automobiles. Yet, rather than handling it properly, Starmer instructed all labor ministers to adopt a flexible approach. Listen to what one minister revealed.
Let's start with the government's reaction to these tariffs that have ultimately come into effect from the US, 25% on steel and aluminium. What's the government response?
Well, it's obviously disappointing that the US has imposed these tariffs on steel and aluminium. We're champions of free and open trade. But our response to this is a pragmatic one, and it's to continue negotiating rapidly for an economic agreement with the US with the potential to eliminate additional tariffs, because we know that's in the best interest of UK businesses. And that's the kind of cool-headed, pragmatic approach that we're going to continue, where we engage closely and productively with the US.
It's hard to grasp the point of staying calm now, with the tariffs already in place. It's obvious that Starmer's desperate effort to secure a UK exemption was laughed off. His earlier flattery, gestures, and pleas amounted to nothing. Trump completely blindsided him, and Starmer didn't anticipate it. Before we go further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If so, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive updates on the seismic shifts in British politics. Let's keep going. Now, Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are sweeping and severe, 25% on steel and aluminium, 25% on cars not produced in the US. These reciprocal duties are intended to penalize countries with value-added tax systems like the UK. Starmer had no contingency plan. His team scrambled at the last minute, proposing to scrap the digital services tax and grant the US future access to UK markets in advanced technologies.
Although I am hoping that Starmer will negotiate for us not to enter a tariff regime in a couple of days, but I'm not quite sure that this Labour government speak the same language as JD Vance and Trump, and how foolish they were not to accept my offer of help. But there you are.
The tariffs went ahead regardless. The UK steel sector, already struggling, is now facing a deeper crisis. Car makers like Jaguar Land Rover, which export all their US-bound vehicles, are directly impacted. Starmer attempted to negotiate his way out of a disaster that had already consumed the bridge. Northern Ireland faces at least £100 million in lost sales due to Trump's new duties, with industries such as whiskey and pharmaceuticals bracing for consequences. The UK government now acknowledges tariffs will apply to Northern Ireland despite efforts to exclude it from broader UK classifications. Customs officials won't differentiate between whiskey from Ireland or the UK. There is no nuance in Trump's sweeping tariff system. Starmer has no plan to safeguard small business owners on either side of the Irish Sea. Meanwhile, Starmer was smiling for the cameras in Washington, while financial markets were tumbling. Investors anticipated retaliation from the EU, China, and other powers. The UK, however, appeared weak and fragmented. Starmer refused to even entertain retaliatory tariffs, unlike the EU and Canada. He kept emphasizing a calm approach, while US duties erased any fiscal flexibility left in Rachel Reeves' spring budget.
But I don't think a trade war is in our interest. But of course, the national interest is what I am guided by, and therefore we must have all options on the table.
Just one more thing on Donald Trump. You have worked so hard with him. You have pulled your punches. You haven't criticised him publicly. He suggested prospects of no tariffs when we were at the White House. And now this. Do you feel played by him?
Look, the US is our closest ally. Our defence, our security, our intelligence are bound up in a way that no two other countries are. So it's obviously in our national interest to have a close working relationship with the US, which we've had for decades, and I want to ensure we have decades to come. And I don't question that in any way. Obviously, we are discussing economic deals. We're well advanced on it. These would normally take months or years, and in a matter of weeks, we've got well advanced in those discussions. So I think that a calm approach, a collected approach, not a knee-jerk approach, is what's needed in the best interests of our country.
However, the Office for Budget Responsibility is already projecting economic harm and potential tax increases, all while Starmer keeps promoting the idea that a deal with Trump is well underway. In truth, the UK is farther behind than ever.
Down on this.
I've looked at that forecast, and the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, actually says that people are going to feel worse off before they feel better off, and that all of that 500 quid at the end of the Parliament could wipe out anyway. You know that, right?
Well, Beth, look, £1,400 a year better off under the national living wage. That's real. That's coming into force today. I'm here at Nationwide. They get paid on April the 20th.
You acknowledge that.
That's
Things
real
could get
money
worse
in their
before
pocket.
they get better.
Well, wages are going up higher than prices. I'm not going to stand here and say people don't feel the impact of bills. Yeah.
After Trump's actions, it's clear that the notion of Britain still enjoying a special relationship with the US is gone. Yet Starmer clung to it like a security blanket. He tried to be everything: the diplomat, the statesman, the intermediary between the US and Europe. But Trump saw right through it. The US wants leverage, not loyalty. It demands concessions, not compliments. Britain's post-Brexit identity as an independent power was meant to provide flexibility. But Starmer proved otherwise. He navigated straight into a dead end. The UK wasn't first in line for anything, it was simply next in line for punishment. In the end, the lasting image is this: Keir Starmer, smiling awkwardly, trying to present himself as Trump's equal, only to return home empty-handed. His mission failed. His promises backfired. The UK faced sweeping tariffs regardless. British industries are now staring down disaster. And all Starmer can claim is that he's working hard and rapid progress is underway. What do you think? Will Trump always get Starmer to follow his lead, only to betray him later? Isn't it true that Starmer humiliated himself in Washington, trying to secure tariff exemptions, yet the UK is now being hit hard anyway? Share your thoughts below on Starmer pleading but being rejected by Trump because he didn't matter. Want to see more videos like this one? If so, please like, share, and subscribe for updates on British politics and the events reshaping it. Until the next video, stay tuned.